And Gordy Cosfeld for this morning's AM Minnesota from Professional Pride Realty. Gordy?
So are you a shooter, John?
I have done some shooting, but not a lot.
We're going to talk today with the Northfield Clay Target Team coach, Pete Mergens, producer today, as well as the host and the sponsor of the show. He produced it. Way to go, Pete.
Well, I think you're giving me a little too much credit as the producer. It was a good idea to have Scott Queering here today.
Yep. He's the coach of the Northfield Clay Target Team, and you're personally involved in this too, right, Pete?
I'm in a very small way. I'm fortunate enough to be an assistant coach, so it's a lot of fun.
And I know you've got kids involved.
Yep, I have a son that's just finished 7th grade. Yep.
And he's loving it?
Yeah, he loves it. It's a fantastic sport. We were just talking off air about how exciting it is for him and I to get to do this together. So it's an amazing thing for me, who's an avid outdoorsman my whole life, to have my son doing this, but more to see these kids play and compete together is pretty incredible. I don't think there's any other sport like it.
Yeah, and as we were chatting a bit before going on the air, before Scott even showed up, they're competing against themselves, actually.
Yeah, ultimately it's a team concept, but yet they're not competing against one another. More for an individual to improve their score is the main focus, their average.
There probably isn't a lot of trash talking in this sport.
No, and to that point, I think you and I were talking off air as well about how focused these kids are down at the trap range. There's no goofing around. There's no, you've got 6th graders through 12th grade competing together and on the same team and helping each other out. It's an amazing thing to watch.
And didn't you tell me you have over 100 kids out?
Yep, we have 104 kids on our team this year.
Well, I don't know how you keep track of 104 kids.
Well, luckily I don't have to. Scott does.
Scott, how do you do that? 104 kids on a team, that's a lot of kids to be in charge of.
Well, Pete is being kind, and it's definitely a team effort, and we have about 12 coaches altogether that all come out every Sunday. It's 100% volunteer effort, and they all help keep track of it and make sure things run. First of all, safety. We run a very safe operation, and then making sure that all the kids are there when they need to be there. So,
have you always been the Northfield Clay Target Team coach?
Yes, I got the pleasure of being asked to be the coach, and I don't even know what it is. It must be about 6 or 7 or 8 years ago. And I took on the job with the comment that if there's anybody else that would like to step up that has some more technical skills than what I do, I would be glad to participate as an assistant coach, and yet I am still the head coach. And so I have taken that job very seriously and done quite a bit of training and seeking out, had some training by some certified Olympic coaches down in Florida, and taken a couple different classes to help improve my skills so that we can translate that into kids shooting better.
And that's got to be tough again with 104 kids to get one-on-one with each one of them,
That is very much a challenge, and again, that's part of the reason key personnel such as Pete and these other coaches, they have that skill set to be able to assist these coaches, because there's no way one person can obviously provide that focus for all these kids. And part of our team approach is that we have a coaches meeting every Sunday before we get started with the actual shooting with the kids, and we talk about the principles that we want to teach that week, talk about how the team did the previous week and so forth, to help everybody.
Talking to the Northfield Clay Target Team, guess who just walked in the door? Todd Bornhauser. He's the president of the chamber. In fact, I think he's got 2 titles, doesn't he?
I think so.
We had 2 titles, Todd? President and Chief Executive Officer or something like that?
Sure, we can make that.
Oh, okay. I'm sorry. That's the way it is in Faribault.
We could make that king, too, if you like. King in Northfield.
King for a day. Are you a shooter? Do you shoot?
I do not shoot, no. So, this is the wrong, I live in the wrong state. I don't hunt, I don't fish, I don't snowmobile, I have no toys. Yeah.
You don't have any toys at all?
No.
I guess now that I think about it, I don't have any toys either. What's wrong with us?
I have a set of golf clubs that are poorly used.
I have a set. I'm in the same boat.
Right.
Yeah.
So.
Thought about getting a boat. Then I probably would, get out on the lakes more.
Yeah. Well, I always found it's better to have friends that have
That's
toys.
true. And they can take care of them. And
Yeah,
you can,
absolutely.
You can enjoy them and
Right.
leave.
Yeah. Just fill the pontoon full of food, and I'm there.
So is there something you want to get the word out on about? We're talking about shooting today with the Northfield Clay Target team coach, Scott Quiring.
We'll do that first, and we can finish up at the end. How's that?
You want to do that?
Yep.
What do you think, Pete?
That sounds good.
It's your show.
All right.
Scott Quiring is with us. He's the head coach. Pete, did you have? You're more knowledgeable about this than I. So.
I don't know if I'd go that far, but
you're
I
a
am.
Coach.
I'm pretty fortunate to be a part of it. It's a lot of fun for us. I think the exciting part, what's coming up, and we can have Scott talk about it, is it actually started 2 days ago on the 11th. Is the state championship, and so maybe I'll have Scott just talk a little bit about that.
So when's your season start? First of all, Scott.
I don't recall the exact date, but it was basically the beginning of April.
Okay.
Was when the season started. So the season is we have 2 weeks of practice. Then we have a reserve week, which is our scores in case of bad weather. And then we have 5 weeks of competition. And everybody knows how this spring went. So it was a little bit of a challenge. We actually didn't have to use our reserve week scores. We got all our rounds in, but it was some challenging weather, and which took an impact on us in our overall conference performance. We ended up finishing fourth out of the league or out of our conference, if you will. So we still did a good showing, but we just couldn't get those scores up there to compete. Our first week we finished second, which I thought, okay, we're going to have another good run here this year. And then we just slowly kind of dropped down a little bit week by week. And again, the kids did a great job. A lot of it was weather related. And so it was a good season.
Now, Pete told me before we hit the airwaves, he's done a lot of research on this and gave me some neat notes here to make me sound like I'm really super intelligent, which everybody knows I'm not. But what he told me beforehand was, if I'm wrong, you can correct me here, Pete, if I'm wrong, but everybody competes. All the team members compete, right, Pete? And you just take the top so many scores.
Yeah, we have 104 athletes that compete, but and Scott, correct me if I'm wrong, but I think we get to count roughly 70 of the students' scores. So you could be a novice athlete that has a really great score that particular week, and that would count towards the team score.
How neat is that?
So that's, like I said, I don't think there's any other sport like it where you can actually see a sixth grader and a senior in high school standing side by side, shooting together and helping each other and counting in the same score together. It's pretty exciting.
Yeah. How does the scoring work, Scott?
There is a formula that it would take me about an hour to explain verbally here, but
that's fine.
Essentially, there for a 25, if you shoot a 25, you get X amount of points. If you shoot a 24, you get X amount of points, and just it goes down the scale there. So that's how those team points are calculated.
Now, Pete also printed off a sheet here that tells me that the 5 members of your conference are literally all over the state.
Yes. So as with most sports, the conferences are sized by your team size, school size, and so forth. So Northfield has been one of the largest teams ever since our founding, and we are literally one of the top 5 teams in the state from a size perspective. So, and how they gauge that's why we use 70 of the team scores, as Pete noted previously, as our overall team score, because some of the other teams teams within our conference are smaller. So in order to make it fair to all the participants, that's why they pick 70 for that team score.
So even though Lakeville South is in your conference and they're a much bigger school than Northfield, right?
Right. They may only have, I think Lakeville South, they may have right around 100 teams also, or 100 members.
Sure.
And I'm not sure, like Bemidji and how many kids they have on their team, but being a rural area, they might be in that 90 or 80.
So did you hear that, folks? Bemidji is in the conference with Northfield.
Right.
Lakeville South is in the conference. Albany is in the conference. Hastings. So you probably don't even see these conference members ever.
Right. And that is the way the league is set up. And part of the reason why it has been so successful is there isn't a lot of traveling. So by and large, most of the teams shoot on a Sunday because there's so many other high school sports that are competing for time of kids and so forth. So this was set up on a Sunday, or the ability to shoot on a Sunday. There's teams that shoot every day of the week, but we are competing virtually, basically. So we go to our same range, the Morristown Gun Club, every week, and we shoot our practice rounds, competition rounds, and then by Saturday at 9 o'clock, all the scores for that week have to be entered into the computer. 9:30, they're spit out who won that week of competition. So, yeah, we never see these people until the state competition, which that's coming up on Tuesday here. This next week is when the Northfield team will be shooting. It's a 9-day competition.
And that's up in Alexandria.
That is up in Alexandria. It's the largest gun club in the state of Minnesota.
Yeah, maybe one of the largest in the country, you think?
It's small relative to some of these other houses. Pete, what did Michigan have for houses? So they have 46 houses.
Oh.
And so this year is the first year that the Clay Target League has incorporated a national championship, and that is because of the expansive nature of the Clay Target League. So it started out in Minnesota in, I believe, 2001, and basically 2009, 10, 11, it started reaching out to other states, and I believe there's approximately about 20 states that are now participating in the Clay Target League. So thus the purpose for creating a national championship so you can go and compete against your fellow states.
And this is the largest growing sport in the country, right?
It is. It is. Yep. So it's really been expanding rapidly. And I would say, given its current growth, if it keeps proceeding as it is, I would say that the league will be within all 50 states probably in another 5 years.
What do you think is the reason why kids love this so much?
You know, I would say that it goes back to when we were growing up as kids. What did we play? We played cops and robbers. We played cowboys, and we just did that. And it's just one of those natural things that is, it's fun to do. It's you go to an arcade and they have the video shooting games. People love to play those shooting games. And this sport is, versus a virtual shooting game, it's shooting a clay target. And there's a lot of pride when you break that target, and there's a lot of contemplation when you miss that target. So it's a individual sport. You're out there on the line, you're shooting your round. Which is that personal pride. You want to try to shoot the best, but then also it goes and translates into a team sport. That's where the Clay Target League has brought it into that team sport participation, and that's part of the allure to the high schools is that it is truly a team sport.
From a parental standpoint, Pete, this expensive? I mean, you got to have ammunition, of course.
You do. In my opinion, no. Especially compared to some other sports. Baseball, as an example, just switched over the bat rules this year, and so as my son is 13 years old, he had to get rid of his previous $200 bat and buy a $400 bat to play baseball. So, in the realm of things, an average box of shells is between $6 and $7, and I think around at least Morristown they really take care of the kids. I think it's $3 a round for kids. So, there's 2 boxes of shells and 2 rounds and the gas to get there on a Sunday. So, in the realm of things, no. There is that one important ingredient, and that'd be a shotgun.
Right.
And you could spend a lot of money there. But, the really amazing thing is most shotguns will do. And one of the exciting things for me, who hunted my whole life, but to actually watch this when my son started last year for the first time, was watching the coaching staff, fit the gun to the individual, and that's a huge part of the success in their shooting is having a properly fitted gun. So the coaching staff takes a lot of time to make sure to teach the kids. Now, keep in mind, they all have to have gone through gun safety to be able to do this. So it's not the first time they're handling a gun or understand the safety aspect, which is really driven home by the coaching staff. But it is it's really amazing to watch these kids come, and some of them, and Scott will attest, can hardly, hold that gun up to start with. And they take a few shots, they miss, and with some, coaching, all of a sudden that kid goes from shooting, 4, 5, or 6 out of 25 to throwing up a 10 or 12 or a 15. The look on their face when they're done is actually priceless.
Yeah, I'll bet. All right. I'm glad you pointed out about the safety, because that was going to be my next question. Is that what you do the first couple of weeks? Go over all that information? I suppose you knock it in their heads again, right, about the safety?
Safety is discussed every week. So we have a safety meeting for the 2 o'clock shooters, the 3 o'clock shooters, and the 4 o'clock shooters. And again, safety is the first item on the list. Primarily, we do the safety meeting before the season even starts. So the season starts in beginning of April. So middle of March, we have a safety meeting that's mandatory at the high school. And that's one of the functions we go through in detail, is just what the rules are out on the range, and then the safety protocols for everybody to follow. And we also tell the athletes that their job is safety too. So if they see some athlete not performing safely, then they need to go up and also say it, because our eyes aren't everywhere. Even though we do have quite a few coaches, it's everybody's responsibility to be safe, and they all understand that. So
taking care of their weapon.
Yep. Action open all times. I mean, everybody knows it's a safe gun if the action's open. You're supposed to carry the action so you can see it. Somebody walking up to you can see that it's open. So just very, very simple things. Barrel always up. Even when you're on the line, barrel up. It's just simple stuff, and we just drill that home. And
this is stuff that they'll take into the field too, right?
Yeah, without a doubt, it's very helpful. I think last year was the first time I took my son out pheasant hunting. And he had already gone through the spring trap league last year. And it's just amazing to me, or comforting, to watch him in the field and see how that translates. It's pretty neat to see. I think back when I was 12 years old and took gun safety and got my first shotgun and went out and hunted with my dad. I'm not sure I probably shot a bird till I was probably 15 or 16 years old, meaning I went out on those trips, but I was afraid to shoot. And that's the one thing that really builds their confidence and their ability to to shoot these targets and then watch it translate out into the field. So for me, it's just it's a dream come true to have my son on the trap team and out in the field with me at the same time.
Yeah, what a great way to bond with your kids. Find something you both enjoy, and this is a lifelong thing too.
Yeah, without a doubt. And for me, the people that know me, it's a huge passion for me. And you don't like to think that you're determining what your kids are going to do, but you do have a say in it. And for me, my son, he wanted to do this from the word go as soon as I asked him. It wasn't me pushing him in that direction. So it's been extra special because of that.
Yeah. So Scott, it's a lot of work, and you're a busy guy. Why do you do this?
I am very passionate about the shooting sports. I've been hunting ever since, as Pete noted, I was 12 years old, and my uncle put a gun in my hands and let's go hunting, and just really grew fond of the sport. And from there, I started shooting on some trap leagues. I love shooting the sporting clays, and I just love teaching the kids about the shooting sport. So it's a tradition that can carry on for generations. And I know a lot of guys that are in their 70s that are shooting. And it's one of those things that you may play football in high school, and most likely most of those kids don't go on to college or professional. This is one of those sports that you start young and you can do it throughout your life. So there's a lot of fun involved in that.
So the state tournament has already begun.
It did, yes.
Because there's so many teams.
Correct.
And you're shooting on the final day of the tournament.
Correct. And there's 9 conferences, and so it's a 9-day. Each conference has their own day of shooting up there. So Alexandria, on the day we're there, there'll probably be about 1,000 kids shooting that day. So it's a very organized. It's amazing how organized it is, and safe, and how smooth it goes.
And how many teams qualify for nationals?
Nationals is literally, they had 240 teams and 1,400 individuals is how that worked out. And we were, as a team, open to enroll in the nationals because of our scores. And we didn't sign up as a team. There are some individuals that are going.
Because that's in Mason, Michigan.
Yes, so there's just some logistics involved in a short duration that we really had to figure it out, and so individuals are going to that shooting event.
I was chatting with Pete before we went on the air. The practices are in Morristown, right?
Yep, Morristown Gun Club, and
they have a lot of teams there, I know.
They do. Scott, I'm not sure how many shoot there, but I think there's 6.
There's 4 teams.
4 teams.
There's about 300 kids every
Sunday. Yeah. It's busy, and keep in mind that's pretty much a volunteer gun club as well. So there's people that put a lot of time in. Of course, each school handles their kids when they're there during their allotted time to shoot. But it's pretty amazing to see these gun clubs throughout the state that. Let's be honest, kids are hunting and fishing less in the Department of Natural Resources, I'll tell you that.
Yeah, licenses.
So a lot of these gun clubs, I think, were probably 6-7 years ago having a tough time staying open. And now that's not the case. In fact, they logistically, I think a lot of them are improving their facilities and making, expanding and doing some things to make it a better thing. As it is growing that rapidly.
In fact, maybe we need more.
Well, I'd love to see one here in Northfield, to be quite sincere, and it's something that's kind of been at the back of my mind with me being involved in real estate, obviously, and always looking for that opportunity, because I think it'd be quite successful, not just for the kids, but getting parents back out doing things with their kids. I mean, I think there are adults that would be happy to be in part of a league with their children or whatever. So I think there's some possibility, but finding the right place, well, that's another story.
Anything else, Scott, you wanted to get the word out on before I ask Todd to wrap things up here for us?
I would just like to add to what Pete was commenting. The gun ranges were dying. Morristown Gun Club was on its last leg, and these 4 teams came in and revitalized it. And we have been receiving grants from the DNR to expand these clubs. So through a grant, we've added a trap house. We're getting ready to do some additional work this summer through another DNR grant that we just received, and putting in some safety devices and some sidewalks, and then also working towards putting in skeet houses so we could have a skeet team, because the Clay Target League also has a skeet side of it versus just a trap side of it. So the DNR has been really a strong supporter of this sport also. So.
Well, sure. I mean, we've already covered the fact that licenses are down, and the revenue comes from those licenses.
Right.
That's not the only reason. Obviously, they're big believers in the sport.
Right.
And want to keep people doing the sport. So, Todd, you've got a card in front of you, and I don't know what it says from here, but it says something.
Well, I just want to talk about a couple things that are happening continually here in Northfield. First of all, the Riverwalk Market Fair is always Saturday from 9 a.m. to 1 p.m. down on Bridge Square, with art, fine craft, fresh produce, Asian artisan food, live music. So runs through June 2nd through October 20th. And so hopefully this Saturday we'll have some nice weather. It's kind of been a little rainy the last two, but that hasn't deterred the crowds from coming down. So if you're looking to do that, that's great. Then the Northfield Downtown Development Corp will do their next First Friday Art Night on July 6th. And lots of events that are going on. You can stroll through downtown Northfield from 5 to 9 and encounter art and performances of all kinds free of charge. So you can go on their website and get that information. So,
Can't beat that.
Can't beat that. Then they're doing their taste tour on Thursday, June 21st from 5 to 8 p.m. And I was told this morning they got 10 restaurants that are available. And a little bit different than the taste where every restaurant is right located, in the same area. This one, I was told you can walk around and burn off those calories walking as you go from restaurant to restaurant. So I thought Jenny Rooney, with the executive director of the NDDC, came up with a great one as well. And unfortunately, we won't be able to attend, Pete and I, because we'll be doing our Chamber Golf Tournament, Northfield Chamber Golf Tournament out in Willingers on that same day, and we're almost sold out for foursomes, and so a great event, and we thank Pete because he's one of our 2 gold sponsors of that event, and without those sponsors we couldn't do these events and continue the great work that the Chamber does.
Yeah, we appreciate Pete as well and opening his doors here at Professional Pride Realty. You're in tune to KDHLAM Faribault, Minnesota.